When the average person is late on rent or mortgage payments, when they fail to pay for services rendered by other people, they enter a path that leads to eviction and poor credit unless they get everything settled. Elon Musk is certainly not average, with a net worth of about 1.5 million times that of the average American, at least before this whole Twitter takeover occurred. But he isn't above the law, and neither is his now private company. Welcome to part 5 of the Twitter Apocalypse Explained. The former richest person on earth is refusing to pay rent on the labor office that he is having everyone show up to in person. Twitter has not paid rent for its global offices or San Francisco headquarters in weeks, the report said, as Musk's team has been trying to renegotiate the terms of the company's lease. As a result, Twitter has received complaints from real estate firms like Shorenstein, which owns Twitter's San Francisco buildings. Right. I'm sure Shorenstein is going to enter those negotiations with an abundance of goodwill for their now delinquent tenant. The tenant who's brought beds into a building zoned for offices, inciting possibly multiple legal issues for both Twitter and their landlord. What we do know right now is that the Department of Building Inspection in San Francisco almost immediately got complaints about this and is now looking into the situation. Hanan said the department investigates all complaints and that commercial and residential codes are different, even for those being used for short-term stays. Everyone in San Francisco deserves a safe place to live, work, play, and sleep, and no one is above the law, Hanan said. Given that he's moved Tesla and is in the process of moving SpaceX over to Texas, it's not unreasonable to assume that he's at least thinking of moving Twitter over to his current home state. If he does, I hope the new headquarters has some really good backup generators, because then the play looks something like this. Step 1, end remote work, forcing everyone to be at the office. Step 2, fire so many people that the ones who are left now have to work 80 hours to cover the work that needs to be done to keep everything going. Step 3, employees are now working so long each day that they might as well stay at the office. Step 4, move everyone who's still at Twitter to Texas because there is no choice. Remote work is no longer allowed. Step 5 is everyone now lives at the new Twitter HQ. And then the Texas power grid fails, taking everything down. But don't worry, guys and gals, this hypothetical motivation behind the drama at HQ has nothing to do with this hypothetical move of headquarters to Texas, and nothing to do with him now being a Republican. If we want to move the headquarters to Texas, I think it would play into the idea that Twitter has gone from being left-wing to right-wing, which is not the case, Musk added, according to The Verge. This is not a right-wing takeover of Twitter, it is a moderate-wing takeover of Twitter. Right. This is where one would normally say something like, yeah, no matter what happens, the lawyers are going to win. And one would be right, except for the fact that lawyers might be less inclined to represent Twitter, given that it's not paying its bills or its employees. From the moment Elon Musk began layoffs at Twitter, former employees immediately started suing. In a matter of weeks, Twitter was hit with multiple class action lawsuits, with employees alleging that Twitter violated laws by denying proper severance and discriminating against women and staff with disabilities or on family or medical leave. These class actions didn't seem to faze Musk, though, as he continued with staff cuts without delivering promised severance to many. Instead of paying ex-employees, he eventually further escalated threats to terminate remaining staff, abruptly firing employees for criticizing him and threatening to sue employees who leak internal Twitter communications. Even when Twitter starts hiring again, the most hardcore Elon Musk sycophants must be staring at their bank accounts, wondering whether they can take the financial risk of working at Twitter now. Shannon Liss-Riordan is back with a statement on Yahoo Finance regarding the emergency motion she filed in November. Despite the legal challenges that have begun, a great deal hinges on 2 major court decisions that will determine the course of litigation the workers are able to take. take. First, the court is expected to decide early next week on an emergency motion that liss-Riordan filed November 9 in Cornet's case. Although laid-off employees still have not received their official severance agreements from the company, Twitter has indicated that it will have several employees sign a release of claims document to receive their severance. Signing the document would prevent the former employees from taking legal action. So far, this is normal, even if a little bit shady behavior on Twitter's part. They're just trying to protect their own legal interests. However, the emergency filing by liss-Riordan is about this little but important step in that process. The emergency motion would prevent Twitter from seeking those releases without first notifying employees of the pending class action lawsuit and contact information for legal counsel. A similar motion was filed in a case against Tesla, requiring the automaker to notify laid-off employees of pending litigation. Basically, it boils down to if you're fired from Twitter and you sign the document, you're waiving your right to benefit from any sort of class action lawsuit that may happen in parallel, whether or not you're aware of it. With the filing, Twitter would be obligated to notify all employees, former or otherwise, of the class action lawsuit, so that this does not happen. The next bit is similarly about locking out employees from benefiting from that class action lawsuit if they pursue individual arbitration. The second decision, which is set for a hearing in January, centers on arbitration agreements that most Twitter employees signed as a term of employment. Under this clause, employees with legal claims against Twitter must pursue individual arbitration, preventing them from participating in or benefiting from any class action lawsuit filed against the company. Twitter has filed a motion to enforce that agreement, which liss-Riordan is opposing. From a legal and neutral perspective, this is completely fair on both sides. Twitter doesn't want former employees double dipping from their bank account, and employees no longer at Twitter want to get every penny that they can for having to put up with all this bullshit. Liss-Riordan is of course ready to wage war, claiming that her team is ready to help file hundreds of arbitration cases against the company should the court choose to enforce the arbitration agreement. We'll show you one by one, and then we'll file hundreds or even thousands of individual cases. I know what you're thinking. She stands to benefit greatly from filing all these individual cases. And you're absolutely right. I think her firm is going to make bank if cases like this are representative of the level of how easy they are to defend. Liss-Riordan also represents Dmitry Borodenko, the lead plaintiff in a case against the company alleging discrimination against employees with disabilities. Borodenko, a cancer survivor vulnerable to COVID-19, said he was fired after refusing to return to the office. I'm not a lawyer, but I imagine it must feel amazing if you can open with something along the lines of, "My client got fired for not being willing to risk his life by going into the office while having all the tools required to do his job remotely from the safety of his own home." I mentioned in the previous video that some people over at Tesla are a little bit pissed over Elon selling his Tesla shares to fund his purchase of Twitter. This is still true, of course, but I also want to talk about his abandonment of his responsibilities as CEO of Tesla, not Twitter. That, of course, some people are upset about. Elon abandoned Tesla, and Tesla has no working CEO. Tesla needs and deserves to have working full-time CEO. What Tesla board of directors should do nothing? Elon will find his own successor under board of directors independent supervision. Koguan Liu is Tesla's third largest individual shareholder, with about $3.5 billion in shares as of right now, which means that prior to Tesla's shares dropping in value by over 50%, his shares were worth more than twice that, aka he's lost over $3.5 billion so far. Of course, he's upset. Tesla has its own share of problems right now, with full self-driving being a vaporware pipe dream that costs $15,000 for the privilege to test and risk your life over. They also have their Cybertruck, which is endlessly getting delayed, and they still have quality control issues that they get regularly called out for. With so many problems at just one of the companies that Elon is supposed to be managing, it's safe to say that he's a little stretched thin right now. In fact, one could speculate that some of the motivation behind behind the broad stroked actions that he's making at Twitter are a result of some level of self-awareness of this fact and him wanting to get Twitter fixed as quickly as possible so he can divert most of his attention back to the other companies that also need his attention. The problems that arise from such an approach are covered by the series The Twitter Apocalypse Explained on YouTube. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon for notifications for future entries in this series. Nobody knows what Twitter is going to look like a year from now. Hell, nobody knew that it would look like the way it is today 2 months ago. Elon has already made countless decisions at Twitter that show a complete lack of respect and responsibilities for current and former workers, a lack of technical understanding of how the site actually works, and apparently a lack of financial preparation to give Twitter the runway it needs to keep operating while Elon fixes the company. Ross Gerber, president and CEO at Gerber Kawasaki Wealth and Investment Management, told Reuters that he was contacted by a Musk representative about offering more shares at the same price, $54.20, that Musk paid to take the company private in October. Some are going to be quick to point out that this is Elon we're talking about. He made a lot of people a lot of money back when he did the same thing with Tesla, offering investment opportunities at various price points, and then, having people just ride the share price up to the moon, and it worked. But this is Twitter. Twitter is different. The difference is Twitter is not a small startup anymore. Twitter is a mature social network that has already experienced the majority of its potential growth. And with that realization, it's not unreasonable to speculate that he just wants to use other people's money while he tears his own company apart. This has been the final video for the year. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. Thank you for all the feedback and kind words. I truly mean it. It's been motivating for me as I build my skill set and try and make better videos. Hopefully you've been enjoying them. 2023 is going to be amazing. And of course, thank you for watching.